Hi, I'm Leslie, co-founder of Member Hero, and in this video, I want to talk about registration forms. So the good news is that when you installed Member Hero and ran the setup wizard, all the registration forms, login forms, lost password forms, and so on were already automatically created for you. So this means that the moment you finish running the setup wizard, your site became ready to register and log in new members. So now let me show you some registration settings so that you can familiarize yourself with how registration works on Member Hero. Let's begin by going to the Member Hero plugin and clicking on Settings. So the option I want to highlight to you is the New User Default Role. Right now, this is set as Member, but you can change this to any of the existing user roles. For our purposes, let's keep it as Member. Now let's go to the Forms. So now we're in the Form setting of Member Hero, and let's go into the Registration. So here we are on the registration form settings. As I mentioned earlier, the registration form already works and there isn't anything that you actually have to add or change. But let's go through some of the options anyway. So the first is the form type. Obviously, since this is a registration form, we want to keep this as a registration form type. So currently, show field icons is set to do not show. And if we go to the registration form, you can see how there are no field icons right now. But let's go back and turn this to beside label, hit update, and refresh the page. And now you can see the field icons. Force a specific role is a really important feature, so let's get back to it. Now let's turn to add confirm email field and add confirm password field. So this feature simply makes a new user register their email twice and register their password twice. This is to ensure that they got the right email address and they got the right password and there weren't any typos in what they filled out. So let's update the form and see how that affects our registration form. So now you can see there's a confirm email field and a confirm password field. So the email address and the confirm email will have to be the same email address or your member will not be able to register. And now let's look at the form builder. So right now we have email address, username, and password set as the default. And if you're happy with that, you can leave that completely alone. In the email address editing settings, we've got a general, properties, and customize tab. So now let's look at blocked emails. Blocked emails helps you reduce the amount of spam you might get. So for example, you might want to block the domain name email.com so that all emails coming from that domain name won't be allowed to register. So allowed emails is useful if you're creating an internal member directory and you only want your employees to sign up from your company email address. So for example, if your company was Google, then you might only want to allow Google email addresses to sign up, in which case you would put asterisk at google.com. So this way, only people with the google.com domain name in their email address will be allowed to sign up. Unless this is you, we recommend that you just keep this empty. So in our case, we definitely want the email address to be a required field, so we've toggled this as yes, and we can keep the rest as is for now. And we can say field. Let's quickly go into username. So we have the same options in username except without the blocked and allowed email addresses. And again, we don't have to touch any of this. And likewise for password, there isn't anything that you need to change or touch, so we recommend that you just leave it alone. And there you have it. So we've just updated the form, we've added the icons, we've added confirm email and password fields. So now let's talk about force a specific role. When does this come in handy? This feature comes in handy when you want to create a registration form for a specific role. Right now, as you remember, our default registration form creates member roles. So let's say that we wanted to create a community manager role. Let's go to add form. And maybe let's call this registration community manager. So again, we want to keep the form type as registration. And now we can force a specific role and let's select community manager. This means that this specific form is going to create community managers as a role. And let's quickly add username, email address, and password. So our form will now require username, email address, and password in order to register a new community manager. And let's hit publish. So the next thing we have to think about is where exactly does this form go? So we can give the form a home by first copying the form shortcode, then going to pages and adding a new page. So let's call this registration community manager. And let's just give this a heading. And now we can paste our form shortcode and publish our page. Alright, so our page for registration for community managers is now ready. Let's go to it. So as you can see here, it's registration community manager, and we can now register community managers. And that's it. So you now know how to build registration forms, customize them, and place them into new pages so that they can be seen and users can register on your website. I hope you found this video useful. Please let me know if you have any additional questions. Have a great day.